Alright, today's lesson is on the volume of right prisms. So we'll go ahead and start off by talking about volume is measured in cubic units. Okay, the reason we do cubic units is because there is 3 dimensions to it. We're talking about the length, width, and the height. Okay, and that can be done, you can say inches cubed, centimeters cubed. If there's no units attached to it, we would just say units cubed, the U cube. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at our first one. We do have our figure over here, and we have how many cubes are in the top layer. So if I count these, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 cubes in my top layer. How many layers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then how many total cubes would need you to build this structure? Well, if there's 6 in each layer, and there's 5 layers, I would say 6 times 5 equals 30. Okay? So 30 cubes. What is the length? Go ahead and say that this is the length, which would be 3. What is the width? Which would be right there, which would be 2. The marker's starting to die. Let me grab a new one. Alright, and then lastly we say that the height is 5. Right there. Okay. And then how can you use the dimensions to find the volume? We would use the dimensions to find the volume by doing length times width times height. So we do 3 times 2 times 5, and we do get an answer again of 30. So 30 units cubed. Alright, so we'll take a look at number 2. How many cubes are on our top layer? We should be able to count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many layers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so how many total cubes? We would do it 9 times 5, because there is 9 in each layer with 5 layers, 45 cubes. Alright, what is the length? We're going to do length down here again. We have a length of 3. What is the width? Also have a width of 3. And then we have a height of 5. And how can we use the dimensions to find the volume? We're going to go ahead and multiply them all together. Our length times our width times our height, and we get the same answer of 45 cubic units. That's just the same as 45 cubes. Okay. So the volume for our rectangular prism we're going to go ahead and use is we're going to say that it is the length times the width times the height. Okay. Now our length and our width is the base of our shape. You can almost think of it as a bottom floor, the base of something. So that is our base. And we need to start thinking of that in terms of when we use our equations. Our height is going to be how many layers? Okay, so that's our height. So length times width times height, or base times height, we can also say. Alright, and then our excuse me, the formula for the volume of our triangular prism. We think of a triangular prism here. Here's our triangular prism. Okay, and if we were to stand this up on its side here, on the end, instead of having a kind of a rectangular square base here, we would actually have a triangular base. So we're going to use our triangle as our base. And we're going to use a very similar formula. Just like we use the base was length times width for our rectangular prism, we're going to use the same equation for our triangle base. So we're going to do half times length times width. And that is the same as our, and actually let's do this for height. So this right here is the same equation as find the area for the for a triangle. So that is going to be our base. And then we're going to measure the height of it as well. And that would be how tall our rectangle is. And then we're going to do a big H right here for our height. So this would be our height of our prism. So two equations, length times width times height, and then half times length times your height, which is your height of your triangle, and then times the height of the prism. Let's go ahead and use those to solve a few more problems here. So our first one, number 3, is we can see this is our length, this is our width, this is our height. And this shape is a rectangular prism. And the equation for the volume is equal to length times width times height. So if we plug it in, volume is equal to 8.2 times 3.7 times 4.1, and I plug that into the calculator and I get an answer of 124.394 inches cubed, or I can round it to 124.4 inches cubed. Alright, let's try it for our triangular prism here. Triangular prism. And that is volume is equal to our half times our length times the height of the triangle times the height of my actual shape. And I can also think of the length of my triangle as also the base of my triangle, so either one does work. The B or the H will work. Or, I'm sorry, the B or the L will work, base or length. And if I look at my triangular prism over here, this 13 right here is my base. Okay, the base of the triangle. My 7 is going to be my height of my triangle. And then my 10.5 here is going to be my height of the prism. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in here. Volume is equal to half times the base, which is 13, times the height, which is 7, and times the height of my triangular prism, which is 10.5. Go ahead and plug that into a calculator, and I get 477.75 centimeters cubed. If you wanted to round it to the nearest tenth, you would be 477.8 centimeters cubed. What I'm going to go ahead and do right now is pause your video. You've got 4 problems for you to try. When you try those problems, let's make sure you go ahead and write down your formula first before you start plugging everything in. The more you write down those formulas, the better off you're going to be. Alright. So let's look at the first one. First one you could see was a rectangular prism. So we're going to do length times width times height. Should have gotten a 4 for your length, 2 for your width, and 3 for your height, giving you 24 units cubed. Number 2 should have been the same thing. It's a rectangular prism. So it is length times width times height, or base times your height. And we have our length, our width, and our height, giving you 180 inches cubed. And number 3, we have a triangular prism. So we have volume is equal to base times height, or we can have our base as our half times our length times our height times height. So we get 8 as being our base times 5, which is our height, and then times 9, which is the height of the prism, giving us 180 centimeters cubed. And then lastly, we have a triangle prism here. This one's actually turned compared to what it is this one. This one actually has the triangle on the top and the bottom, actually showing it as the base. So we have half, and then times 8 would be our base, and then 5 would be the height of it, and then we have 3 would be the height of my actual prism. Okay? And we should get 60 centimeters cubed.